Welcome to the deep dive. We are jumping right into the really fascinating energy for the week of December 15th through the 21st, 2025.
Yep.
All this material is coming from two fantastic sources, Astrology of the Week and the Narrative StoryScope, both from Tarot by High C. And, if we're looking for some kind of grand dramatic entrance, we are not going to find it this week.
Not at all.
The core reading says this energy slips in through side doors. So it's not about big external shocks. It's more about internal friction.
Right. It's that moment where maybe an unexpected reaction just surfaces out of nowhere.
Right.
Or a plan that you thought was perfect suddenly feels completely, misaligned with reality. And what's so fascinating here is this collision of cosmic gears. You have this really expansive, hopeful Sagittarian energy, which is where the new moon is, and it's immediately forced to contend with this deeply grounding structural Capricorn energy, and that's coming from Mars, Saturn, and the solstice.
So it's not about slowing down your ambition?
No, not at all. It's about building a heavy-duty frame around it.
And I think the unavoidable truth for this deep dive is, well, you just can't outrun your own history. You can't outrun old patterns, but you can absolutely stop letting them drive your life.
Exactly, and that's our mission here, really. It's to find the tools to shift that internal narrative from, ooh, why does this keep happening to me, to something more powerful.
To something like, okay, now I see the pattern, and this is what I need to do next.
Precisely.
And that shift takes a certain kind of honesty, doesn't it? The narrative even says that healing this week comes through contact with the parts of ourselves that still wince when pressed.
It does. That awareness is everything. Because midweek, we get these emotional checkpoints and reality checks that feel personal, not performative. We have to look at the patterns, not just the isolated moments of drama.
It seems like we're learning how dedication meets a deadline and how, honesty about our potential versus our actual patterns can change everything.
Everything, from your career goals to your closest relationships.
So we're looking for structure. If follow-through is the goal, we need the right kind of fuel. Let's get into that. The week kicks off with a massive shift. On the 15th, Mars, our drive, our action moves into Capricorn, and it's staying there until late January.
And when Mars, which is all fire and, chaotic energy, moves into Capricorn, the sign of ultimate structure.
The chaos becomes construction.
Exactly. It ignites ambition, yes, but with disciplined momentum. It's not about flash and fire. It's about the joy of creating something tangible.
That's a huge distinction. So it's not about rushing. It's about building something to last. What does that actually look like strategically?
Your actions need to become more practical, more deliberate.
Right.
You stop doing the easy, flashy tasks and you return to the core priorities.
Okay.
We're encouraged to trade those impulsive moves, the ones based on excitement, for calculated ones.
Yeah.
Slow down just long enough to make a real plan.
And then Mars in Capricorn gives you the stamina to see it through.
The sheer stamina, yeah. Through the holidays and beyond.
But I wonder, doesn't that discipline drive sometimes come off as, well, a little hard? The material mentions this energy. It can make some people really ambitious, maybe even authoritative, less flexible or collaborative. If you're pushing that hard, you're bound to run into conflict.
That's the low side of it, absolutely. If you misuse the energy, you might just become rigid. The key is to channel any irritation, frustration with slow progress, or with other people, into progress on your own stuff, not into fights.
So it's about setting personal boundaries, not bulldozing colleagues.
Exactly. And that need for structure is just so perfectly shown in the StoryScope with Alowan. She had built her life on momentum, really believing that just being busy was proof of purpose.
I think we've all been there. The belief that if I just run fast enough, I'll eventually outrun my problems.
Kudo. But when she goes before the guild for validation, they give her this perfect Capricornian reality check. They basically say, impressions are no longer sufficient. We need structure, details, proof.
Proof that what you're proposing can actually stand up to time and pressure.
Yes. The universe is requiring quality over just, enthusiastic activity. And that really brings up a critical question for you, for the listener. Where are you relying on speed when what you actually need is structure?
That need for proof leads us right into Tuesday, December 17th. We get the Sun square Saturn. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Or the dream meets the deadline. A square is always a point of tension. The sun is our confidence and Saturn is, hard reality.
Yeah.
So this is where that big Sagittarian optimism hits a wall of Saturnian accountability.
So deadlines get tighter, expectations rise. It's that moment where your brilliant idea from the weekend suddenly needs a budget and a spreadsheet.
Yes. Or a boss pushes back.
Hmm.
Or, as the source says, someone asked for details we thought we could improvise. The square makes you face the limits of just winging it.
And that can make your confidence totally wobble. The immediate thought is, oh no, my idea was bad. I should just quit.
But the material is so clear on this. The wobble doesn't mean the idea is wrong. It just means you have to refine the dream into something that's genuinely workable. That pressure is actually a gift.
But what if that pressure feels like?
Too much.
I mean, what if you feel that Saturn gravity just pulling you down? Isn't structure sometimes just stifling?
It can't be if it's arbitrary.
Yeah.
But here the instruction is just, don't spiral adjust. The framework isn't a cage for the dream. It's meant to hold it up.
Okay.
You have to accept limits not as failure, but as the necessary boundaries for success later on. So instead of quitting, you break the big goals into smaller tasks.
Things you know you can actually deliver on.
Right, to prove your commitment to yourself. It's just like Elon's moment in that bare stone room. She feels resistance for the first time in months, and she realizes, I had hoped to improvise my way through the cracks.
And that pressure just highlights the need for a real substance over the impression of progress.
And that realization just prepares us so beautifully for the week's big reset.
Which is Friday's new moon in Sagittarius. On the surface, it sounds amazing. A powerful reset of our guiding story. Hope gets louder, vision expands.
It is. It's a chance to set intentions based on authenticity, vibrancy, and harmony rather than routine.
And to take one brave step toward a larger story.
And this new moon encourages us to stop pretending not to care about the things we really deeply care about. But, and this is a big but, here's where the week's complexity really hits.
There's always an asterisk, especially when optimism meets structure.
This powerful surge of Sagittarian hope is immediately paired with some really difficult aspects. The new moon squares both Saturn limits and Neptune, which is illusion and fog.
Oh.
Which means the reset forces us to face a reality that we may have been avoiding.
So the fantasy of, like, effortless success fades just as you're trying to dream up something new.
Precisely. Illusions fade, masks dissolve. It can actually manifest as some deep confusion or discouragement. You can feel intensely hopeful and deeply destabilizing at the same time.
What kind of reality might we be avoiding? Are we talking about, like, a financial truth or something in a relationship?
Probably both. The new moon is linked to Venus and Juno, so partnerships, alliances, money, all of that is highlighted.
Yeah.
You have this increased determination from Mars available to you.
But
you can only access it if you use that Saturn square to face the reality checks first. The energy basically says, you can have the dream, but only if you acknowledge the structural problems right now.
And that's exactly what happens with Eloan, right? Before the Mirror of Salt, it reflects not who she wants to be, but what she's avoiding.
Yes. She tries to give it a clever answer, but the mirror just waits. And she finally has to confess, just honestly, I want to stop repeating myself.
Wow.
And that honesty is the core insight of the whole week. That reflection. It wasn't a judgment. It was just pure, painful recognition. Healing isn't the absence of pain. It's being willing to touch that wince without flinching.
Moving to Saturday, we get Sun square Neptune, which just throws this layer of, like, emotional fog over everything.
It does.
The sense is that a veil of mystery surrounds the day. Everything looks softer, sweeter, and maybe a little misleading. Your judgment gets wobbly.
This is the peak fantasy alert. Inspiration spikes, but so does pure delusion. Boundaries just kind of dissolve. Miscommunication thrives because we might believe a flimsy excuse because it sounds poetic.
Or feels good.
Or feels good, yeah. We might underprepare and just assume things will magically work out.
So the check for the listener on Saturday is, am I seeing what's true or what I really, really want to be true?
Absolutely. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. You have to apply that Capricornian grounding. You must, as the source says, fact-check anything that costs time, money, or dignity.
How do you apply that kind of discipline to something that feels so Neptunian, like a relationship or an emotional commitment?
You apply it by asking for clarity, even when it feels awkward. This is shown perfectly when Eloan faces her friend Rowan. Rowan is that pure, well-meaning optimist. It will all sort itself out.
The kind of thing Eloan used to believe.
Exactly. But after the Mirror of Salt, Eloan asks for clarity. She says, can you actually commit to this work? Or are you just hoping enthusiasm will carry us through?
And that is the moment that just breaks the whole illusion.
And the truth arrives quietly. The realization was sharp. Potential had been mistaken for pattern, affection for reliability. The conversation didn't lead to a fight, it led to a recalibration. Boundaries formed not as walls, but but as necessary shapes.
Which brings us to Sunday, December 21st, the culmination, the solstice and the sun moving into Capricorn, a sacred gateway of stillness and rebirth.
This marks that crucial shift. We move from vision, the big, expansive enthusiasm, to strategy and execution. We're called to start constructing the actual groundwork for the year ahead.
And the week gives us one last reality check as we enter this new season. Venus square Saturn on Sunday. Relationships and finances get real.
One last time. That honesty we've been practicing is now a request made directly of the heart. We have to see the difference between potential and pattern. Effort has to match enthusiasm.
Let's talk more about that core lesson on sustainability. The idea that love needs boundaries, money needs discipline, hope needs containers. That's such a powerful metaphor. Why do our dreams need containers now?
Because without them, they just leak away. Hope without discipline evaporates into fantasy. That's the Neptune effect. Money without discipline leaks into impulsive spending. That's the Mars warning.
And love without boundaries
Leaks into resentment and obligation. It destroys sincerity. The container is what saves the vision. The structure is what makes the intention last.
Containers, not cages. That really feels like the defining wisdom of the week.
Absolutely. Eloan's final thought reinforces it. Responsibility settles differently for her now. It's not a burden, it's an anchor. Commitment is just devotion made practical.
So this deep dive has really shown us that the most successful reset isn't the most beautiful intention, but the one with structure. We've moved from asking why things keep happening to, well, to understanding what to do next.
The week slips away just as quietly as it came, and it leaves behind, as the sources put it so beautifully, no miracles, only something rarer, direction, and the courage to follow through.
If the goal this week was to transform that powerful optimism into a sustainable reality by setting boundaries, just remember those three containers we talked about: love, money, and hope.
And given these deep lessons about distinguishing potential from pattern and recognizing where maybe affection has been mistaken for reliability, ask yourself this: where in your life right now is a lack of discipline, a lack of a container, allowing something truly valuable to just leak away? Think on that until next time.